Hi, I'm Rev Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years. I'm going through the lessons, asking Jesus to clarify for me, and then from that clarity, I'm writing whatever comes into my mind. And that's what I'm sharing with you today. So let's get started. I'm looking at lesson 133. I will not value what is valueless. Paragraph 1. Sometimes in teaching, there is a benefit, particularly after you have gone through what seems theoretical and far from what the student has already learned, to bring him back to practical concerns. This we will do today. We will not speak of lofty, world-encompassing ideas, but dwell instead on benefits to you. You do not ask too much of life, but far too little. When you let your mind be drawn to bodily concerns, the things you buy, to immanence as valued by the world, you ask for sorrow, not for happiness. This course does not attempt to take from you the little that you have. It does not try to substitute utopian ideas for satisfactions which a world contains. There are no satisfactions in the world. When I first began to sort the valuable from the valueless, I had a hard time with it because I didn't really want to see that the world had nothing to offer me. I wanted to keep some things that I treasured. I wanted to be a certain size and have nice things. I wanted to be admired and respected. I wanted to have more money. Honestly, I can't remember all the things I thought would make me happy. After all, he just said that I asked for too little and that the course doesn't want to take what little I have. What I didn't want to notice is the part where he also says that I spend too much time on bodily concerns and things to buy, and where he says that there is no satisfaction in the world. I just didn't want that to be true. Paragraph 3. Today we list the real criteria by which to test all things you think you want. Unless they meet these sound requirements, they're not worth desiring at all, for they can but replace what offers more. The laws that govern choice you cannot make, no more than you can make alternatives from which to choose. The choosing you can do, indeed, you must. But it is wise to learn the laws you set in motion when you choose, and what alternatives you choose between. 4, we have already stressed that there are but two, however many there appear to be. The range is set, and this we cannot change. It would be most ungenerous to let alternatives be limitless, and thus delay your final choice until you've considered all of them in time and not been brought so clearly to the place where there is but one choice that must be made. So we must make choices. That's why we're here. Jesus is helping us to understand the process so that we will make choices that take us out of the endless stories. Referencing rules for decision, again, we read this. You will not make decisions by yourself, whatever you decide, for they are made with idols or with God. And you ask help of either Antichrist or Christ, and which you choose will join with you and tell you what to do. When we make choices, Jesus isn't talking about deciding which item in your closet to keep or what diet will work best. He's talking about choosing with either ego or Holy Spirit. That is a range of choices we have. Do we want to keep the world going as we make endless, useless choices that never bring us to God? Or do we want to make the one choice that will bring us happiness and peace of mind? Do we want to make the one choice that will wake us up? Paragraph 5. Another kindly and related law is that there is no compromise in what your choice must bring. It cannot give you just a little, for there is no in between. Each choice you make brings everything to you or nothing. Therefore, if you learn the test by which you can distinguish everything from nothing, you will make the better choice. So choosing another form of nothing is going to bring us more nothing. If I value the world even a little, I will have nothing. If I value the truth only, I will have everything. There is no way to keep one foot in the world and know myself and my Creator. And only this will satisfy me. Anything less leaves me with this void that I cannot fill, no matter how much I own or how entertaining the distractions of the world. Paragraph 6. First, if you choose a thing that will not last forever, what you chose is valueless. A temporary value is without all value. Time can never take away a value that is real. What fades and dies was never there and makes no offering to him who chooses it. He is deceived by nothing in a form he thinks he likes. What is there in the world that lasts forever? What can end or be lost already comes with a cost. Have you ever worried about someone you love, feared for their life or their health? I have, and the moment the thought of loss enters my mind, I've lost my peace of mind. Houses, no matter how lovely or expensive, sometimes burn down or destroyed in other ways. Sometimes a change of fortune causes their loss. And sometimes the satisfaction of ownership fades and loses its attraction. The most beautiful people, the wealthiest, the most highly regarded, all die in the end. There's nothing in the world that lasts, and so there's nothing in the world worth having. I will not be deceived by nothing in a form I like. 7. Next, you choose to take a thing away from someone else, you will have nothing left. This is because when you deny his right to everything, you have denied your own. You therefore will not recognize the things you really have, denying they are there. Who seeks to take away has been deceived by the illusion loss can offer gain. Yet loss must offer loss and nothing more. If I take what belongs to another, I've taught myself that loss is possible, and so I will have taught myself to fear. When I worked in sales, the idea was to gain customers by enticing them to buy from me and not someone else. There was that adrenaline rush when I stole a competitor's customer that for a while I thought was pleasure. It never lasted, of course, and when the adrenaline faded, I felt let down. Then the fear would set in, because if I could steal, I could be stolen from and suffer the consequences. The world is made up of this kind of gain that turns to loss. It's discouraging and stressful. No one wins. Only the gifts of God bring true joy, and they do so because they are shared by all. God gives all to all, and so there is nothing to covet and nothing to take. Instead, we share in our mutual happiness, and so the happiness is increased. 8. Your next consideration is the one on which the others rest. Why is the choice you make of value to you? What attracts your mind to it? What purpose does it serve? Here is the easiest of all to be deceived. For what the ego wants, it fails to recognize. It does not even tell the truth as it perceives it, for it needs to keep the halo which it uses to protect its goals from tarnish and from rust, that you may see how innocent it is. Eventually, I learned to do my job differently. But for the most of the time that I worked in sales, I told myself that I was just doing my job. Behind that reason, there were others that I hid from myself. In retrospect, I see that I was acting out of fear. I was afraid of not having enough money and of being fired. I also enjoyed the sense of winning over others, as I was very competitive in those days. I didn't like admitting to that because I was a student of the course, and on that level, it seemed wrong. I was trying to keep one foot in the world and the other in reality, and it didn't work. So paragraph 9. Yet is its camouflage a thin veneer, which could deceive but those who are content to be deceived. Its goals are obvious to anyone who cares to look for them. Here is deception doubled, for the one who is deceived will not perceive that he has merely failed to gain. He will believe that he has served the ego's hidden goals. 10. Yet, though he tries to keep its halo clear within his vision, still must he perceive its tarnished edges and its rusted core. His ineffectual mistakes appear as sins to him because he looks upon the tarnish as his own, the rust a sign of deep unworthiness within himself. He who would still preserve the ego's goals and serve them as his own makes no mistakes, according to the dictates of his guide. This guidance teaches it is error to believe that sins are but mistakes. For who would suffer for his sins if this were so? Beneath my apparent successes and the pleasure it brought me to win, there was fear that I was bad. I was deliberately taking pleasure in hurting others, and this felt like a sin. The ego never sees mistakes, only sins, and sin demands punishment. It was like living with an axe poised over my head, just waiting for it to fall. Because I felt like a thief, I kept expecting to lose customers and to be fired for that loss. It was pretty unlikely I would be fired considering I worked for my brother, but the ego doesn't make sense. It just makes fear. I did not think all this out at the time because the ego also hides its motives and projects its blame. 11. And so we come to the criterion of choice that is the hardest to believe because its obviousness is overlaid with many levels of obscurity. If you feel any guilt about your choice, you have allowed the ego's goals to come between the real alternatives, and thus you do not realize there are but two. And the alternative you think you chose seems fearful and too dangerous to be the nothingness it actually is. Eventually, it was a sense of guilt that carried even more than it was the fear that turned me around. I had begun to realize that guilt is a sin that I have chosen. Sorry. Let me say that again. I had begun to realize that guilt is a sign that I have chosen poorly and needed to see things differently. I learned to be a different kind of salesperson, and I no longer, or hardly ever, took pleasure from stealing customers. I decided if a customer belonged to me, then he would choose me. I eventually began to want only what was best for my customer. And if it was a different company, well, then I was happy for him. My job was a very valuable classroom for me, it turns out. 12. All things are valuable or valueless, worthy or not of being sought at all. Entirely desirable or not worth the slightest effort to obtain. Choosing is easy just because of this. Complexity is nothing but a screen of smoke, which hides a very simple fact that no decision can be difficult. What is a gain to you in learning this? It is far more than merely letting you make choices easily and without pain. I did not reach this level of understanding and acceptance while I was still working, but that job gave me many opportunities to move toward it. In spite of losing my cutthroat attitude that had served the ego so well, I seldom lost customers and I gained new ones. New customers came my way and many of them became my friends. I had moments when I felt the old desire to win and moments of fear, but I had looked behind the curtain and seen the ego was nothing and offered nothing. And that certainty continued to grow. I know now how to choose. 13. Heaven itself is reached with empty hands and open minds, which come with nothing to find everything and claim it as our own. We will attempt to reach this state today with self-deception laid aside and with an honest willingness to value but the truly valuable and the real. Our 2 extended practice periods of 15 minutes each begin with this. I will not value what is valueless, and only what has value do I seek, for only that do I desire to find. 14. And then receive what waits for everyone who reaches unencumbered to the gate of heaven, which swings open as he comes. Should you begin to let yourself collect some needless burdens or believe you see some difficult decisions facing you, be quick to answer with this simple thought. I will not value what is valueless, for what is valuable belongs to me. The only thing I want now is God. There are things to be done in the world, and I do them, but they're not important to me. Failing at them or succeeding, both are the same to me. I enjoy my home and I like my car. I love my family and I love my fellow students of the course. But enjoying things and people is not the same as thinking I could not be happy without them. It is chasing that feeling of neediness that is a hallmark of choosing ego over God. When I notice that happening, I sit in silence until the Holy Spirit corrects my thinking and I'm at peace again. Thank you so much for sharing this lesson with me. And if you found it helpful, please like it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow with another lesson.